And hello again from Fox News in Washington. It has been a dramatic week for the Trump campaign, one that included a complete management overhaul. Campaign chairman Paul Manafort resigned amid controversy over some consulting work in Ukraine. Earlier in the week, Trump named the chairman of the Breitbart News website, Steve Bannon, as his chief campaign executive, and Kellyanne Conway, a veteran pollster, as his campaign manager. This comes as Trump attempts to broaden his appeal, launching a major ad campaign and expressing regret over comments he's made. Joining me now is former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, an advisor to the campaign. Mr. Mayor, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Well, great pleasure to be here.
Okay, let's talk about the week you've had. It was mixed. There's been praise for some scripted, disciplined speeches by Mr. Trump this week. There's been talk of the campaign shakeup. But let's take a look at the polls, because this is the reality of what you're dealing with right now in several key battleground states. From Ohio to Virginia, you've got Mrs. Clinton leading by anywhere from 2.8 up to 11.2 percentage points. How do you turn that around at this point?
Well, you know, it's really early in that sense. I mean, at this stage of the campaign, George Bush, 41, was behind Michael Dukakis by 16%. By 16%. At this point in the campaign, Ronald Reagan was behind Jimmy Carter by numbers fairly similar to what you just showed right there. In fact, some of those are within the margin of error. So I'm not concerned at all. I think Donald Trump this week had an excellent week. Much, much better than Hillary Clinton's. In fact, she kind of disappeared for the week, except for her one appearance that I remember where she sat with a couple of Democratic-appointed police chiefs trying to claim that she has police support. And I don't know a single cop in the United States that supports her. And I know a lot of cops. And I think what he did this week was he outlined in great detail what he wants to do for this country about Islamic terrorism, about the economy, about bringing jobs back. He then made an audible, meaning he changed his schedule to go down to Louisiana to bring attention to the people of Louisiana while the president, you know, is still up there and wherever he is playing golf. I can't, as a mayor.
The president says, of course, he's going down on Tuesday, but that was part of a very busy week for Mr. Trump. Let's talk through some of these speeches that he had that he's gotten a lot of praise for. The first one, you talked about that he's outlined his plan to go after to stop the spread of radical Islam. He talked numerous times in that speech about, quote, extreme vetting. We also have a little bit of his general election ad now airing in several key battleground states. Let's play a bit of that.
In Hillary Clinton's America, the system stays rigged against Americans. Syrian refugees flood in. Illegal immigrants convicted of committing crimes get to stay, collecting Social Security benefits, skipping the line. Our border open, it's more of the same, but worse.
All right, critics say they're pointing to the imagery in that ad and saying it paints immigrants in a discriminatory fashion or uses scare tactics. They want to know what the words extreme vetting mean. Can you tell us?
Extreme vetting means that from countries that house terrorists, countries from which attacks on the United States have been launched, there is going to be a very, very strict test in order to get into the United States. You don't have a right to come to the United States. There's no such right to come to the United States. So we should be taking in people who believe in us, who believe in what we believe in, and who are dedicated to the principle of a nation of laws, not Sharia law, but American law. And from certain countries where we've had problems, it's going to be pretty hard to get in. And it should be. For example, taking in Syrian refugees, which Hillary Clinton wants to increase by 550%. That's 5.5 times more than Obama has brought in. She wants to be the Angela Merkel of the U.S. ISIS has told us they are going to put terrorist operatives in with those Syrian refugees. They've actually told us. Now, we would have to be stupid to allow them to come into the United States. We would have to be out of our minds. What we should do is set up a no-fly zone in Syria and put them there, keep them in their country so they're not flooding Germany. Look at how crime has gone up in Germany since they've allowed Syrian refugees in. All of a sudden you had terror attacks in 3 or 4 different places in Germany. So we don't want that to happen in the United States. We have enough homegrown problems than to bring in a bunch of Syrian refugees, I'm sure many of whom are legitimate people, but we've been told they are going to hide terrorists with them.
All right,
and Hillary Clinton Hillary Clinton wants to increase that by 5 times. So she wants to make the risk 5 times worse than it already is. And we already have 1,000 investigations, according to the director of the FBI, of terrorists here in the United States. So she wants to add to the 1,000 investigations.
Let's talk about another speech that Mr. Trump gave this week, and he did something that we have not seen before, at least publicly. He talked about having regrets. I want to play a bit of that speech and also Mrs. Clinton's response.
Sometimes in the heat of debate and speaking on a multitude of issues, you don't choose the right words or you say the wrong thing. I have done that. Believe it or not, I regret it.
He is still the same man who insults Gold Star families, demeans women, mocks people with disabilities, and thinks he knows more about ISIS than our generals. There is no new Donald Trump. This is it.
Mayor, do you think he can win over his critics, convince them he's truly sorry?
Well, first of all, I'd like to see her apologize for her lying to Gold Star mothers when she gave them a false narrative of how their sons were killed at Benghazi and said it was about a Mohammed video when she darn well knew it was a terrorist attack because she had told her daughter that on an email the night before or the night before that. I'd like to see her apologize for all the money that the Clinton Foundation has been taking, let's say from Saudi Arabia, where women are not allowed to drive. You tell me she's a feminist and she takes money from a country where women are not allowed to drive? You tell me she's a feminist when she spent a great deal of time covering up a lot of the misdeeds of her husband and engaged in a lot of the attacks on the women who were telling the truth? She's a feminist, except where it comes to her husband, where she attacks the women who are telling the truth about it. So she deserves to give the American people an apology. She certainly should give us an apology for having been found completely careless in handling national security information. Jim Comey said that. She should apologize for lying on this show about what Jim Comey said.
Well, we're going to talk more about that, but with a specific focus on him, do you think that it's possible for him at this point for people who have written him off because of some of his comments, do you think they're going to accept that expression of regret, not an apology, but expression of regret? Do you think it's enough?
I think it is, and I think you're going to see that throughout the rest of the campaign. Donald Trump is extremely focused now. If you look at this entire week, you can see it was focused on issues, hard issues, tough issues, issues on which the American people agree with him and with us, maybe 60, 65%. 65 to 70% of the American people believe the country is going in the wrong direction. And if he can convince them that he is the person to lead us, then certainly he's the only one to give us change. What they're trying to do, the Clinton campaign has no campaign. She hardly appeared this week. I don't know where she was.
Then why is she doing so well in the polls?
Why?
It's working for her.
Because, well, what's working for her is she has an entire, read Michael Goodwin's column today in the New York Post, and you can figure out what her campaign is. She doesn't need to campaign. She has the New York Times, she has the Daily News, she has ABC, she has CBS, she has NBC. She has an entire media empire that constantly demonizes Donald Trump and fails to point out that she hasn't had a press conference in 300 days, 200 days, 100 days, I don't know how long. Fails to point out several signs of illness by her. All you got to do is go online. All you have to do is go.
Her campaign and a number of people defending her saying there's nothing factual to the claims about her health, and that's speculation at best.
Well, so go online and put down Hillary Clinton illness. Take a look at the videos for yourself.
Okay, I want to make sure that we get to something that is criticism coming from within the party and give you a chance to answer that, because this week 123 Republicans, some current lawmakers, former lawmakers, other top GOP leaders wrote a letter to RNC Chair Reince Priebus urging him to divert his money away from the Trump campaign and any money available to the down ballot races. They're worried about the Senate and the House, saying, quote, "We believe that Donald Trump's divisiveness, recklessness, incompetence, and record-breaking unpopularity risk turning this election into a Democratic landslide. And only the immediate shift of all available RNC resources to vulnerable Senate and House races will prevent the GOP from drowning with a Trump-emblazoned anchor around its neck." Your response?
You know, the most amazing thing to me is that Republicans would do that to other Republicans. I had the great honor and privilege of working for Ronald Reagan In fact, he's the only president I've worked for. And he always believed that the 11th commandment was, don't attack another Republican. So I'm embarrassed for the people who wrote that. I'm also embarrassed for how frightened they get so quickly, which is certainly not a sign of leadership. And I wrote a book about leadership. One chapter is about courage. And the reality is, he is not that far behind. He is well within striking range in every one of the key states, and in a couple of other states that most Republicans don't have a chance of winning. So this is unnecessary fear on their part. And I'm sort of really disappointed in them. But look, Donald Trump is not a typical Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative candidate. This is an insider versus outsider campaign. She is the consummate, corrupt Washington insider. And she is thoroughly corrupt. And so is the Clinton Foundation. If I were back in my old job as U.S. Attorney, I would probably indict the Clinton Foundation as a racketeering enterprise. They took money from money launderers, criminals, dictators, people who abuse women as a matter of government policy. She did favors for those very people who gave money to the Clinton Foundation. For example, UBS gave the Clintons altogether over $1 million. She made a call to the IRS, asking the IRS to go easy on their attempts to get identities from UBS. In my day, that was considered bribery when I was a U.S. attorney, and I prosecuted several very prominent politicians and convicted them of bribery,
Mr. Mayor,
including 2 congressmen.
we've got to leave it there. Again, the Clinton Foundation and all those associated say that they are not under investigation and that they've been clear and transparent. So we will stay tuned because there are those who are urging a closer look.
That's the biggest bunch of garbage I have ever heard.
Mr. Mayor, we appreciate your time today.
Bunch of garbage. They are, I believe, under investigation. There was a leak of that just the other day. And number 2, if they're not, the Justice Department should be ashamed of itself.
All right, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining Fox News Sunday, sir.
Thank you.